got Grandmaster. So chess is pretty popular right now, and being good at a popular game brings a lot of clout, which sounds kinda nice. But what doesn't sound nice is spending 10,000 hours memorizing chess openings, which is apparently a prerequisite to becoming halfway decent at this game. So we're not gonna do that. Instead, we're gonna go with the easy option and build our own multiplayer strategy game, get Grandmaster in that, because I'm the only one playing, and get some clout that way. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is come up with a game idea. Now, a lot of the classic strategy games like chess and Go and checkers, if anyone still plays that, are what we call perfect information games. Games where all players have complete information about what's going on. For example, in chess, the pieces on the board are clear for both of us to see, which is fine, right? You know, I mean, it works, obviously. But it lacks that spiciness found in incomplete information games, like in card games, where you don't know what's in your opponent's hand. So for this game, we're going to include some incomplete information to spice things up. And to do that, I'm going to be inspired by the board game Stratego, which is basically just chess, but instead of a king, you have a flag. And instead of pieces having different movements, they have different ranks, where higher ranked pieces beat lower ranked pieces. The catch is that all of your opponent's pieces are hidden, so you don't actually know what you're attacking until you attack, which can lead to some pretty saucy situations. But anyway, enough foreplay, let's get into actually making the game. First, we need to make the grid that the game takes place on. I'm going to make it tall and thin, unlike me, because I want the game to play quite quickly. Then we need to have the actual playing pieces with their different ranks that we can move around and attack with. Now, usually it's a good idea to keep the visual simple while you prototype and work out the core mechanics of the game. But this is a YouTube video and I'm not going to make you look at this abomination for any longer than you already have. So we may as well work out how this game's going to look right now. The main thing we want to avoid is confusing our players because most of them are probably already pretty confused. Chess avoids confusing people by having a distinct, easily recognizable symbol for each of its pieces. So for our playing pieces, we need to do the same. But coming up with original designs sounds like a lot of work, so I'm just going to base them off a bunch of existing military symbols and hope I don't get sued. And after a little digital magic, we've got our pieces here ranging from 1 to 9, with 1 being the weakest and 9 being the strongest, along with the flag that, like an e-girl at a gaming event, everyone's trying to capture. And as you can already see from these designs, I have no idea what I'm doing, and definitely didn't just copy these ones from Halo 3. But unfortunately we can't just slap these bad boys into our game, because as the eagle-eyed among you might have noticed, we're in 3 dimensions, which means we need to thicken these pieces up a bit, and that requires a bit of good old 3D modelling. Now that might sound a bit scary, but fortunately for us, I got 30% of the way through that Blender donut tutorial, so taking these designs as a foundation, I'll be able to whip up some AAA looking graphics in no time. So it turns out that spending a few hours watching a beginner tutorial doesn't make you an expert. And it also turns out that trying to model masterpieces using designs as terrible as these isn't really doable, at least not for a pleb like me. Which is a bit of an issue because no one's going to click on a video of a game that looks like this. I mean, I went to the effort of making the game 3D, but it looks flatter than a fucking ironing board. This is not gonna do. What we need is a professional, someone that knows what they're doing and that can turn these dull designs into something interesting and exciting. So we're going to call on the wonderfully talented illustrator and concept artist Justina to juice these pieces up a bit, and despite the limitations I placed on her for some of the designs, she crushed it. Even my design for the number 7 piece, which I consider a modern classic, she somehow managed to surpass. So big shout out to Justina for these designs. Anyway, now we've got some actual designs, we've got to make the models to put in the engine. And as we've already established, that someone isn't me. So this time we're going to call upon Chen, a professional 3D modelling artist, to bring Justina's designs to life. And once again, she reminds me that when faced with my own incompetence, I should just rely on people more talented than me, showing us that actual artists can make a game go from looking like this to this. So big thanks to Justina and Chen. If you want to work with them and have some budget to spend, check out their links in the description. But anyway, now we've sorted out the graphics, it's time to work on the actual gameplay. Currently we can place these pieces down at the start, and then once the game begins, move them around and attack with them. But this isn't very interesting. Everything's so slow and there's a lack of dynamicness needed to make things exciting. So what we can do to address this is allow players to deploy pieces during the game, not just at the start. This way we can limit the number of pieces deployed at the start to say 8, and then each turn a player can choose to either move an existing piece or place down a new one. And this worked okay, until someone placed a piece down right next to my flag, which doesn't really allow for a lot of counterplay. So obviously we can't just allow players to slap down their pieces anywhere they want. Instead we need some sort of constraint. So what we're going to do is introduce a simple territory system that governs where players can deploy their pieces. At the start of the game, the bottom 3 rows will be owned by the blue player, the top 3 rows owned by the red player, and the middle 2 rows owned by the government, aka not you. Now we'll only allow players to deploy pieces on tiles they control. Then when we move a piece onto a tile we don't control, it becomes part of our territory and somewhere we can deploy a piece to. Now obviously we can't just let players deploy pieces like the Fed prints money, because then we'd be absolutely fucked. So unlike government spending, we're going to actually put some limits onto what we can do. Along with setting the maximum number of total deploys to 20, we'll set a limit for each piece so we don't end up with a board that looks like this. And with that, the deploy system is done and dusted. We've now got something that's starting to look like a game. You set up, and then you go look for your opponent's flag. Simple enough. But the gameplay still feels a little bland. And I like my games extra hot, so we're going to have to add something else to spice things up a bit further. Right now, these are the highest ranked pieces, which means if you lose these, you're basically screwed. And these lower ranked pieces, well, they're basically just useless cannon fodder that exists solely to find the special high ranking pieces.
Oh shit.
And while that's remarkably similar to real life, it doesn't make for very interesting gameplay. So to make these lower ranked pieces more useful, we're going to give them some unique abilities. We can broadly categorize these abilities as follows. An ability that activates on attack, on defend, on death, and an ability that affects surrounding pieces. So for this first piece, we're going to get rid of this 1 and replace it with an A for Archaeons. Then we're going to say that whenever this guy attacks another piece, it always wins, but if it gets attacked, it always loses. Not bad. Then for an ability that activates on defend, we'll say that when the number 4 is attacked, its rank becomes 1 higher than the attacker's rank. So if it's attacked by a 2, its rank drops to 3, but if it's attacked by an 8, its rank jumps to 9. Which may be a little too spicy, I'm not sure. We'll cap the maximum rank at 9 though, because I don't want to resize the text. For the 6, we'll give it a buffing kind of ability where any friendly piece in the tiles in front of it gets their rank increased to 9, which might be slightly overtuned, but we'll stick with it for now. Sprinkling in some other abilities for pieces 2, 3 and 5 means that now our lower ranked pieces don't feel so useless. Must be nice. And playing this now, it feels a lot more interesting. Though to truly test how it plays, we'll need a proper opponent, and that means making this baby networked. Now people say adding multiplayer is difficult, but I found that the hardest part about making a multiplayer game is trying to convince one of my 3 friends to test it with me, because right now I'm kind of struggling to find an opponent. But using my boyish charms, I managed to persuade one of them to 1v1 me. And what followed was some seriously high octane gameplay and absolutely no bugs. What the f***? Why can I not interact with this? Oh, the timer's frozen. Well, that can't be good. Once we'd finished, I realised there were a few things that needed a little tweaking. For one, my piece, the A for Archaeons piece, that always wins when it attacks but loses when it defends, isn't completely overpowered, which is a bit of a problem if I'm naming it after myself. Once it's revealed, it's super vulnerable, which maybe I am, but it's not really relevant to the game. So to make it stronger, we'll allow it to attack diagonally. This way, even after it's revealed, it can still be used aggressively. On the other hand, the current rank 6 piece is way too strong. My friend kept abusing that piece's OP ability to beat me multiple times at my own game, which I'm not a huge fan of, so I decided to nerf it into the ground by making it the lowest rank piece in the game and changing its ability to only boost ranks by 2 instead of juicing them to 9. And I feel as though this is a good approach to game balance. Buff the things I personally like, nerf the things I don't. Also, I think we need to add 2 more pieces in the form of traps. These pieces can't be moved, but when attacked will debuff the attacker in some way. We'll include a mine that destroys itself and the attacker, which is a pretty hefty debuff, and a trench that decreases the attacker's rank for a few turns and prevents it from moving. At this point I think the game is in an okay spot and is pretty spicy.
Spicy meat.
But there's just one more thing I'd like to add to boost it up to that extra hot status.
Yeah, boy.
And that thing is spells. Currently our game is lacking that Uno reverse factor that will make the gameplay a bit more dynamic. So what we can do is add a final option for the player during their turn. They can move their piece, they can deploy a piece, or they can use a spell, which we'll call a support since this game isn't about wizards. Each support can only be used once, and you can use a maximum of 4 during the game. The supports range from debuffing your opponent with, say, an airstrike.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba, but it does contain the unstoppable
Airstrike.
Impossible!
Buffing your own pieces, like boosting your scout to rank 9. That sounds fair. And pulling the old switcheroo on 2 of your pieces to swap their positions. I've created 7 supports in total because that's what I came up with. If you have any ideas for new piece abilities or supports, let me know because there's definitely room for improvement for some of these. Anyway, with that, the core gameplay is done. We've now got an infinitely deep multiplayer strategy game that we can play online against anyone in the world. So yeah. Why have we done this again? Getting Grandmaster, right, yes, okay. Well then, to do that we'll need a ranking system with a bunch of convoluted divisions to confuse people instead of just showing them their elo, including the much sought after rank of Grandmaster. And of course we need a leaderboard, don't we boys, so we can flex on the scrubs. May as well add friends lists while we're at it so I can show off my rank to all my friends. We'll also need to add private games just so that we're 100% esports ready, as well as an offline mode in case I want to play against some terribly written bots. Now originally I wanted the offline mode to just have 5 difficulties ranging from easy to unbeatable, where the computer opponent would play progressively better, until you get to the expert and unbeatable difficulties, at which point the computer would play like some god tier super opponent similar to the chess bots Stockfish and AlphaZero. But unfortunately I have no idea how to do that. And when I looked at some other papers explaining the algorithms these bots use, I had to go lie down after seeing so many confusing formulas. So instead I'm going to resort to what all great game developers do when they can't actually write good computer AI. I'm going to make them cheat. Instead of the computer playing progressively better, it's just going to cheat more and more aggressively. We start out with normal old Barry here, then eventually get to Jenny, who has a few tricks up her sleeve, followed by Arnold, who with unlimited airstrikes just nukes anything that moves. And then finally we have Larry, who is technically playing the same game as you, but just a version where none of the rules actually apply to him. Now it is technically possible to beat Larry, I've just never personally managed to do it. So if anyone is able to actually beat him, well then I don't believe you. Anyway, that's pretty much all the features I wanted to add, and what's this? No unnecessary progression system? Cringe. Let's slap in some player leveling that no one asked for, along with an inventory system so I can give myself a cool player icon. And while we're at it, we may as well add some achievements that I'll use to give myself a nice little title. Pretend that all took about 30 seconds instead of 30 years, and I think that just about wraps it up. I'm currently sitting at world rank number 1 on the leaderboard and definitely didn't just give myself that rating. I'm also coincidentally only 1 point away from hitting Grandmasters. But anyway, that's about it. If you want to try the game out yourself, links are in the description. As for me, I'm now off to challenge my friend to a match, beat his ass back down to bronze, and finally hit Grandmaster. So let's get into some proper gameplay. Alright, still gonna have to go with the meta setup. There are no changes.
No clue what's the meta setup.
Oh shit, interesting. We're gonna
opponent's team.
start aggressively.
Oh wow, what the
Oh
fuck?
no!
Oh,
You've been
what
predicted.
the
Okay, you know what? We're gonna play it safe.
Oh my fucking god. Should I go for it? Yeah, of course I fucking should.
No, you really shouldn't have.
Bro, I'm famous for one thing in this game.
Oh, is it? What's that?
And that's this shit. Boom. You know my strategy, I don't fuck around.
Questionable play.
Oh shit,
Questionable.
what the fuck? Oh no, that's overpowered. That's What is this shit? Bro, do you realize that I have the fucking fortification?
So attack it then.
I don't understand why you do this shit. What is this?
I'm like 17 moves ahead of you. I've already seen checkmate.
No, wait, explain me why you do this. This is the most...
It's too big brain for you. Don't worry about it. You don't have a high enough IQ. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's...
Why?
Oh no.
Why?
Oh no. Just for the flex. Oh, there it is. There she is. Okay, we take those. We take those. And that's GM.
Nice.
Well, if you made it all the way to the end, that must mean you're a true gamer. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to try the game out yourself, links in the description. And a firm handshake for anyone that can actually beat Last Boss Larry. Or, if you're feeling especially brave, hit me up on Discord and we'll arrange a game. And you can test your skills against the world rank #1.